because he's going to get garroted now. He's finished. But it was the smart move. The smart move in 2002 was for Hillary Clinton to vote to authorize the war in Iraq. That was the smart move. Make her Margaret Thatcher, set her up in New York, very tough on the Middle East. All the politics were in line. It was a brilliant move. Bill Clinton did the same thing back in the first Gulf War. Hedged his bets, but basically sided with the war. It's the smart move in the general election. It was brilliant. It was the worst possible thing for her to do because it created the opportunity for a change candidate. It created Barack Obama as the change candidate. She made the smart move, and it was the wrong move. That's why I love politics.
What about
because
the
it's
matrix
phenomenal,
of her campaign?
and it's not logical. And you make the right smart move, and it's the worst possible thing you can do.
Yeah.
You got to follow your angels. You got to follow what you deeply believe, because in the end, it's going to mark you. And Hillary Clinton was marked as a hawk by me and other critics of her campaign. She made her decision to support that war, which was awful. And she did it, and she had to live with it. And this other guy, with all his lack of experience, had the judgment to come out against a bad move. And so he benefited from that. And all those college people that voted for him and all those caucuses that he swept, and all you had to know looking at the Democratic fight this year was how many four-year college people were voting in the caucuses. And if it was a high number, he was going to walk away with it. He walked away with Connecticut and Wyoming and Montana and the Dakotas. Wherever there's a lot of college people voting, and it was a caucus, he walked away with it. She had the working class because of her tradition as a middle-of-the-road Democrat. But he had the college people because they were against the war, and he won the nomination because he was the change candidate. He was the change candidate because he was against the Iraq war. The irony is, here we are in the general election, we're not even talking about the Iraq war anymore.
Isn't that
but
amazing?
It got him here, and it kept her from getting here. And who gave her the worst advice? Bill. Because you just know he gave her that advice. You just know it. You know, Bill. I can just say, hell, you know, it worked for me, you know. It's a safe bet. It'll help you at home in New York, and it's a good bet. You know, go with the war. You know, you're a woman. It'll help you be tough. You know, and all that. You know. In the end, it was a terrible bit of advice. Terrible bit of advice, and I would love to hear those conversations.
What kind of grade do you give Clinton on his performance?
I think I give her a fabulous performance. Her speech at the convention was exuberant, positive, and selfless. It was the most selfless speech because she lost the dream of her life, at least the last 20 years, and she gave it up like a spirit and said, okay, it's not going to happen, at least not this time. I'm going to help this guy. And you cannot give a better speech than she gave at the convention. She was up at Scranton recently. I was up there. You cannot give a better speech. Bill's still dying over this thing. It's just killing him. It's just killing him. For whatever reason, it just bugs him. We can go into all kinds of theories about why it bugs him more than it bugs her. But she has been a good sport. I don't know. That sounds derogatory. She's been a good soul. I think she's seen this thing for what it is. And boy, does that take maturity to go, you know, I wanted it. I could have had it. I almost had it. It was close, but I ain't getting it. Do you realize how much maturity that takes?
Well,
and then to say, I'm going to plow ahead and help my cause and help my...
she's been in? Yeah?
You are a wise person.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't know, I guess so. But I just think she's been great, and I think she'll be a great leader of the Senate if she chooses to do that, a great member of the court if she chooses to do that, and maybe a presidential candidate in a couple of years. But I tell you, she's been fabulous.
Are we going to wake up Wednesday morning with the Democrats having a filibuster-proof Senate? Are you feeling that?
Well, yeah, and I hope they use it wisely.
I
hope they use this power wisely. Because
when was the last time they had it?
Well, no, and I have been very depressed by the Congress, which I love because for 40 years now we haven't done anything in the Congress because of this 60-vote thing. It's a terrible extra-constitutional provision. They should have forced each one of these filibusters. They should make them bunk out for life until they get out of the way and die, these people that try to stop these votes. They should have had votes. Well, I disagree with the liberals on the court. 51 votes should be enough to approve a judge. I'm sorry. Keep it moving. I think government that acts is better than government that stalls. And unless you're a real conservative, I don't see why you'd want to have that filibuster rule. And I think the 60 votes should break it. We'll have accountability. I hope they don't exhaust it on things like card check and things like that that are just going to cause more division, you know, labor stuff and things that are just going to cause trouble. They could pick out a couple of issues like health and energy that we really can agree on. And I hope they push them through. And by the way, they should end the debate on all this stuff and start passing stuff. And I think we can do it. The health care thing, we read about it in the Post today. Up in Massachusetts looks really good, the health care thing. So let's do it. Let's get it done.
As we wind up, I just want to blindside you with a blind side. Warren Buffett, was it last week in California before what, 14,000 women?
That's right.
And you were the moderator, and he hit you up with the question of, do you wish you'd been a woman, or would you rather have been born a woman, or if you'd had the choice?
I didn't know what to say.
Was that fair of him to ask you this?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because women my age, I didn't realize, one thing I learned in this campaign from women I really respect is that they've had it rough. Yeah, it took me this long.
What kind of woman would
because
you...
I've been focused on race and our
of...
place in the role and our role in the world. I've focused on two things: our role in the world, which I think has been wrong lately, and the role of and our attitude about race. We have 300 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, and whatever's come recently ain't that good. And we haven't tried to deal with it frontally, and that's one reason why I'm inspired by this guy. But on the gender front, I realize now it's something that you don't focus on as a guy, which is because I go into groups and I say, how come there's no blacks here when I give speeches? Or how come there? And I see some women. I go, how come there's no blacks here? They all graduate from Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio, all these great universities. UCLA, I graduate a certain percentage of African Americans all the time. Where are they in these big public meetings? Why aren't they in the big corporate world? Why aren't they in the top jobs? Middle management, higher middle, where are they? And I don't get it. Some of them go back to the community and work locally. But anyway, on the front, I have learned a lot in this lesson. One thing I've learned is that women my age and older, maybe not younger women, because I think younger women have had it different, have had to come up against the crap that goes on in Mad Men when you see the movie. I love Mad Men, by the way. But when that secretary, who's the hot, well, I can describe her physically, but that's pretty easy to describe her physically, but she's the secretary that's the one that's the charmer that had the big job in creative, and the minute she proved herself in creative, they gave it to this geeky guy that comes along, and I go, Jesus! And she still works there, she puts up with this crap, and then you have the young woman there, the young Peggy who's gung-ho, and she's going to make it. She's 10 times smarter than these other guys. And she seems to be, I guess she's cutting edge. That is the best thing on television. And by the way, I love the guy. And of course, we all love January Jones. I just love that name. Well, Betty. Betty is like this almost robotic person. You can't quite figure out what is going on in her head except revenge sex, I think is part of it this last weekend. It was clearly revenge sex was part of it. But I was a lucky guy, by the way, that bumped into her at the bar. He's probably going to tell the rest of his life. I met the most beautiful, well-turned-out woman I've ever met in my life. And she invited me into the ladies' room with her. What is going on here? He'll try that again. He'll get killed. That's what'll happen.
Our time is up, but it's good to know that Warren Buffett brought out the woman in you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And here's your Georgetown.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.